Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headache stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need. What you need. We're broken, it's tragic. We're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic. Believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all that is blackness.
And that is where I am going, right over there, because I have a little bit of time, which I'll explain in a minute, and there are a few coffee shops over there. So I'm going to walk along the street and look for a nice coffee shop. The reason I have some time to kill is that places like Ban Rak Thai, where I am now, are still really busy, and all the hotels just about are fully booked. Very difficult to find a room, and my room at this hotel, I only have it for one night, and then I have to move to a different room but in the same hotel. And they told me checkout time is at 12, and this hotel is very serious about check-in and check-out times, so I don't think I'll be able to move into the new room early or do anything like that. So I'm off to have coffee, and then I'll go back at 12 o'clock to check out of my current room. As I talked about in the video I shot on my trip here and my first day here, walking around and trying to find a place to stay, this place, Ban Rak Thai, has a history as a Chinese village, as it was founded by soldiers of the Kuomintang. Well, look at this. My morning walk has been interrupted. Hey there, kitty. Look at this tiger. It's a big old tomcat. Didn't expect him to be so friendly. Eh? Oh, cute cat. Well, buddy, I gotta go get coffee. I'll see you later. I was just saying that this town was founded by ex-soldiers of the Nationalist Army in China, the Kuomintang. They fled China when the communists took over, and it's retained much of its Chinese heritage. And as a modern-day tourist town, as you can see, they've kind of leaned into that quite a bit. So the hotels and tea houses and guest houses and things like that have all stayed with the kind of Chinese decor. So it's quite interesting just to walk around and see what everything looks like. When I first arrived, I walked up to this complex up here on the hill, and that's really kind of interesting. I'd like to know more about it, because the whole thing looks like it could be owned by one company. It all has a very similar style and decor, and it's all connected together in various ways. So it might be just one big company that owns that entire hillside. And they went a bit crazy with the theme park, sort of Chinese theme park stylings. But when I went up there, I couldn't find any kind of an office or reception, so I wasn't able to find out if I could stay there or not, or get a room there. And this whole front street, not on the lakeside, but on the other side, has a complete feeling to it as well. It's all one sort of style, a Chinese style, And these are all tea tasting shops along the bottom and probably the same along the top. And it looks like they're all, again, that building anyway is owned by one company. Maybe they rent it out to a whole bunch of different companies. Remains to be seen whether the town is as busy today as it was yesterday. Here's some scooter travelers, a little bit more on the low budget end of things. This guy's riding a Wave with a bunch of army style camping gear on the back. I like this one here. They've gone really basic and they're using coolers as their luggage. That's kind of cool. I found it to be quite busy yesterday, and people were telling me that it was nothing compared to how it was the day before and then the day before that. So there are a bunch of things you can do here as a visitor. I think one of the expected things to do is to sample some of the tea in one of these tea shops. And they have these stylized scooters with all Chinese decor, lanterns on them. You can rent those to go around the lake. I saw a number of people doing that last night. And of course, you can take a ride on one of these boats. It's been a big feature of the lake for me, just watching the boats going in and out all day long. They started very early this morning, way before sunrise, when the whole lake was still covered in mist. And people obviously planned ahead to be out on the lake at that time of the morning when it's covered in mist and quite beautiful. And I was just sitting on the veranda of my room, which is right over there, watching the boats go out and taking a time lapse of the lake. And apparently something else you can do in this town is drink coffee. Like here's a Do Coffee right here. If it's not so busy, maybe I'll just pop in right here. Why not go to the very first place I see? Oh, they have some seating down below as well, perhaps. Let's check out what's going on down here. Oh yeah. So I could even get my coffee up there and then bring it down here if I wanted somewhere quiet and private. Maybe I'll do that. Ended up having my coffee at a different place. I went here. This is the Coffee Ban Din. Just at the first place. They were really busy and they didn't have time to really deal with me and my lack of Thai. But then I came here next door to Cafe Ban Din. You can see it right there. It has the little round red sign there. And this place is kind of interesting. This is Lee Wine. And they seem to have a lot of different businesses here. They have the really nice set of bungalows in the tea plantation. And then they have this coffee shop. And I saw a Lee Wine, like actual wine store. I guess they make wine as well. And they might even be the people that run the boats that go out onto the river, out onto the lake, I mean. I thought I'd just go inside and take a look around. They've got some really nice postcards for sale here. This looks like a restaurant section. Big round tables for communal meals for big groups. Yeah, and I guess they are the ones that run the boats as well, because the platform is right here where you go down to get on the boats. Yeah, just over there. Makes me wonder if they have some kind of a monopoly on that. I mean, it's obviously a very popular activity. If I had a guest house or hotel, I'd probably grab a couple of boats too, make it part of the business. But this is the only place that has boats. So maybe they have a license to do it or something. I have no idea. I've noticed that they all go out at the same time. There are 5 boats in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they don't go out when they're full. They wait until all the boats are full, and then they go out as a group. Again, I wonder why they do it that way. Maybe it's just more interesting for people to be out there when there are other boats around. Gives them something else to look at while they're out there. I don't really know. And that's where I was sitting to have my coffee, right down there. Coffee Ban Din. You can see the balcony with the sign on it. I couldn't talk on camera when I was there because they had music playing, commercial music, so I couldn't record any of that. It's funny that as I sit down here at the lake, I keep looking up at the surrounding hills, and I feel this urge to get on the scooter and go up into those hills, because I see some buildings over there, a temple over here, and I want, what's there? And I want to head out to all those places, but I think I'll just stay by the lake today. Because I think if I was up in the hills, looking down at this lake, I'd instantly think, wow, look at that lake. I want to go down to the lake. And so I think this is the place to be. But those areas up there, for example, there's some interesting looking buildings up at the very top and over there on that ridge. And you might get a nice view of the lake from up there. If I stayed here for a few days, I guess I would go out to the countryside and do some exploring. The funny thing is that a big part of the business in the town is selling tea. So actually I really liked Coffee Din, because when I went in there, she gave me a cup of what she called oolong tea, complimentary with the coffee. And she told me specifically it was oolong tea. And then she brought a little pitcher of tea and told me it was ginseng tea. And then she gave me a plate of nuts, like assorted nuts. And then, of course, I look around the shop and I realize they sell oolong tea and ginseng tea, and they sell all those nuts. So she's actually, doing very good customer service, thinking that if I sample some of their snacks and their tea, then I'll end up buying those snacks from her shop. But it doesn't really work for me, though, because everywhere I go, I keep getting tea. I had dinner last night, and they brought me several cups of complimentary tea. Good tea, like oolong tea and ginseng tea, and they bring me complimentary tea. So I get so much tea from so many different places. I don't really need to go into any of the tea tasting operations, because I'm tasting tea all day long everywhere I go. And I think this is also part of Lee Wine. This might be their wine selling section. Here they have some chrysanthemum tea with wild honey on ice. That looks really nice. I'm curious what this wine is. Yep, Lee Wine, fruit wine. This is plum sweet, Indian gooseberry sweet wine, pineapple, plum dry. And then they have all the various teas for sale. Yeah, it's quite an extensive operation they've got going. I'm down here at the far end of the lake again. This is an interesting spot. When I walked by here last night, this whole cement area was filled with tables. Each set of tables connected with one of the shops over there, serving food and drinks and things like that. And I saw a few guest houses over here, like this one. Don't know if you can see it against the sun or not, but it looked like a fairly low-key kind of place, like a low-budget guest house. And I was curious how much they would cost. And not surprisingly, they're actually relatively expensive. They showed me the rooms down below are 1,000 baht, and the ones upstairs are 800 baht. So despite how they look from the outside, it's the same price as the place where I'm staying right now. So that kind of confirms my suspicions that you're not going to find anything lower than that in this town. Except for the very first room that I saw was 600, but I mean, it really was an empty cement shell with nothing, not even Wi-Fi. So yeah, it's just the kind of town it is. I think the room that he showed me, and all the rooms here, basically, the price is not really based on the comfort level, but on the occupancy rate, because he had 2 large beds in that room. The 2 beds filled the entire room, basically. And as he put it, each bed was for 2 people. So the room was for 4 people, and it would be 250 baht per person for that room. And as I pointed out to him, that doesn't really help me out because I'm always just one person. In towns like this, they just don't have single rooms. They just don't exist. Which makes sense because, I mean, you can guess that based on how people react when they find out that I'm alone. Or when, I think every foreigner who travels around Thailand gets the same reaction. Or anywhere in the world, really. You're alone? Just one? Only one? Aren't you lonely? You know, you get that conversation over and over again. But it makes me wonder how expensive the tents are, because there's a whole series of pup tents down there at the lakeside. But you would think, wow, stay in a tent, save a lot of money, but I'm willing to bet those tents are really expensive. So yeah, I don't know why people would bother staying in tents. And there's a whole area across the lake there, people staying in quite large tents. They're almost like houses. They have furniture and mattresses, all kinds of things. That's where I had dinner last night, and I noticed the people staying in these tents. A lot of them have packed up and left today already, but they had arranged something with the owners of those shops, and they're going back and forth, back across constantly to go use the bathrooms, get water, get food, get mattresses, all kinds of things. So, but you'd think the only reason they would stay in those tents would be to save a lot of money. But again, I'm willing to bet that you don't really save very much by sleeping in those tents. And one thing I noticed is that most of the ground was sloping quite badly. And I spent quite a few nights in tents, and it's really awful actually to sleep on sloping ground. You know, it's hard to get any sleep at night because you're constantly sliding downhill. So yeah, most of these tent spots that I've seen have been on a pretty sharp angle. Wouldn't be the best for setting up a tent. I've moved into my new room. I'm now in N18. I was in N16. It's always such a funny thing to do because in most real ways, this room is a major step down. It's a much older room, much less finished. There's like open concrete all around, and there's these openings in the concrete up here that doesn't have screen on it, so mosquitoes can come in. And there's just these 2 sort of twin mattresses kind of on the floor, like on a raised platform, The other room was much more like a hotel room with a big bed and a mattress frame and all that kind of thing. So yeah, this room is a step down, even though it costs the same amount. The weird thing is, though, you can also get improvements because the water heater in that other room in N16 just doesn't work at all. You just get, at best, a little bit of a lukewarm water, but it usually just comes out cold. But here, the hot water heater actually works as long as you turn the flow down really, really low. You have to be like a master magician, because if you go too low, the flow of water is not enough to keep the master switch turned on. So you go too low and the whole thing just shuts down. And then if you raise it too high, the water flows too fast, and these electric water heaters aren't powerful enough to heat up a rapid flow of water. The flow has to be very slow in order for it to heat up. It's a whole science. It's an art form, getting hot water out of one of these things. But anyway, this one does work better, though after you use it and you turn everything off, then it goes into this shutdown phase. I swear it sounds like a nuclear reactor about to go into meltdown. It's kind of insane. You get out of that bathroom fast because it sounds like the whole thing's going to explode. I don't know what's going on in there. Anyway, this is my new room, and I'm just here for one night. And it's getting a little bit later in the afternoon, and what I wanted to do was go look at the tea plantations at the Lee Wine Resort, because this whole town seems to be mainly about tea and fruit wine. And I think you can just go up into that tea plantation, walk around, and look at the tea plants. So that's what I'm going to do right now. It only took me 2 days, but I finally figured out how you get a room at one of these places up on the hill. There's actually an office right here on the main street that says check-in. You can see it right there behind me next to the giant teapot. I spotted that, and I went over there, and they actually have a big chart on the counter that shows the layout of the entire complex with all the types of bungalows laid out. There's standard, superior, family size, all the different sizes and types at different altitudes, meant for a certain number of people, and then they have a price list as well. So in fact, it's quite easy to figure all this out. If you want to stay up here at any of these places up on the hill, you just come down here to the main street, look for this giant teapot, and right there is the check-in counter. It even says check-in up at the top there. So, as I said, it only took me 2 days to figure that out. And the cheapest rate they had was about 1,700 baht for their standard bungalow. That's about $50 US. And then it goes up from there to about 3,000, closer to $100 a night for the more, the deluxe ones that you can see up above me. And then they have family cottages for like 200 a night, like 6,000 plus baht per night. So yeah, it's not cheap staying over there. The places where I'm staying are actually a lot cheaper than staying up here. Anyway, yeah, it's not quite as busy as it was earlier, but you still have to keep your eye out for trucks and things. I'm at the entrance to the Lee Wine Resort, and I can't figure out how it works from the sign, but I think if all you want to do is go in and see the tea plants, you can just sort of walk in between 10 and 5. And this appears to be pretty much as high as you can go here in Lee Wine Resort. Kind of interesting, it's called Lee Wine Resort, and yet it's really all about the tea plantation and the tea bushes. Time to head back down, back into the big city around the lake. And this could be my final stop for this afternoon anyway, in my tour of the village today. I'm down at what they call the Rich Pool Walking Street. And I don't know why it's called Rich Pool, but that's the name they have on a sign right here. Actually, I'll spin the GoPro around and show you where I am. There's this little spot here that just has tea and cold drinks, things like that. Got a cold beer that I'm going to enjoy in a second. I had plans to come down here for dinner. I'm probably going to eat at one of these spots along the way. They set up tables here. And this is a Rich Pool Street right here, basically. And there's the sign that I was talking about, Rich Pool, right there. They haven't set up the tables yet. I guess I'll do that a little bit later in the afternoon as the sun gets a bit lower in the sky. The new crop of campers have shown up. Kind of interesting always to walk by there and see all the interesting gear that people have, the way they've converted their SUVs and pickup trucks into campers. Oh, cheers. I hope you're having as good a day wherever you are as I am having here up in the mountains. Cheers.